So over the years, I've been fortunate to not suffer from too many knee injuries, but one of the common things that happens when you spend a significant amount of time on the trails is acute ankle injuries. And so today we're going to look at a few exercises to help with proprioception to either rehab an injured ankle or prevent ankle injuries from happening.
An overlooked area having to do with proprioception and balance is how mobile and flexible our foot ankle is. It can get kind of stiff and rigid and tight, and therefore not perceive our terrain as well as it does if it's compliant, mobile, and interacts with our terrain in a way that sends a lot of feedback to our brain so we know what our foot ankle is doing on the terrain itself. So we're going to start with a little under the foot massage, some calf stretching, and some top of the foot stretch. So we'll just drop down and show you guys my favorite way of working through the foot with a trigger point ball or a lacrosse ball. So Joe, if you just want to step your foot up on there, I'm going to ask that Joe keeps his heel down on the ground. That'll put a little bit more load and pressure through the massage tool. And then the first thing you can do is just like let the foot really wrap around the contour of the ball. And that just takes our foot out of its kind of rigid board-like structure sometimes and just lets it mold and be compliant over the shape of the ball. So you can just have that drape. And then you can also take it and fan left and right and move where you're fanning forward or back to really get all of that dense fascia and muscle tissue worked out. And then you can also take and kind of maneuver the ball in this like rectangle fashion underneath the sole of the foot, which will end up kind of running through a lot of those key areas, the inner arch, front of the heel, outer foot, and ball of foot. And then maybe reverse that and run through that a few times. Next exercise that's really important is a calf stretch, and this helps for a lot of reasons. So I'll have Joe choose a foot to stretch. We'll start with his right foot, so he's going to step on the left side of this little half roll, and this is a nice tool. You can use a rolled up towel too as a tool as well. So when you're stretching your calf, it's nice to do it when you're standing in vertical because that's where you spend a lot of your time running and you want your calf to be at an appropriate length when you're in your vertical stance.
Okay.
So for some people who have tighter calves, they might have this non-stretching foot stepped back more. For those that have more flexibility, we can advance that free foot more forward. But you want to go through a stretch with a straight knee and then also try to dive and go into some knee bend on both sides to deliver that stretch a little bit more into the Achilles and the lower, deeper calf muscle called your soleus. So you can feel that difference probably of where that stretch is. And Joe talks a lot about leaning through the ankles for downhill terrain, and this allows us the flexibility, mobility to do that, and it'll help with our balance and proprioception to have a less stiff calf complex and ankle bend. So we'll switch on that. So keep the heel down, place the ball of the foot on the surface, find your stance, do a little straight leg, stretch, and then you can go through a little knee bend. Enough that you start creasing at the front of the ankle and you put that stretch a little lower into the Achilles and soleus. Next stretch we call top of the foot stretch, and it will stretch these tendons and kind of little foot muscles in here that actually some of them end up all the way at the front of the shin. So sometimes you'll get a stretch up high as well as in the foot itself. So Joe's gonna take the top of his foot and set it way back behind him so that he has a straight leg. Both legs can be straight, and then his toes are curled underneath, and it will feel like a pretty profound stretch if you're not used to stretching this part of your body. Yes, so if it cramps or feels like verging on pain, just step out of it and go back and forth a little bit. But if you want, you can hold this stretch for a few seconds, 30 seconds or so, and then go ahead and switch sides. So after doing those stretches and mobilizing exercises, now we're going to take that into a little bit of resistance training. That'll help us have articulation through our foot through some strength, and then we can take that up and use it on some unstable surfaces a little bit better. So we're just gonna have you bring this leg up, and we're gonna stirrup it with a pretty strong band. Like this is a blue band, so you can start with a really light resistance and move up to this blue resistance, but your foot's pretty powerful, so it needs some heavy resistance to feel something, I think. So the first part of the sequence is to curl the toes into the resistance of the band, arching and doming the foot, and then you gas pedal the foot ankle down. Second part, uncurl the toes and then release the gas pedal. So go through a couple of those, curling and doming, arching the foot, pressing into the resistance with your calf, unfurling, stretching through the toes, and then now stretching through the calf.
Okay.
Second round is to reverse that direction a little bit. You're going to gas pedal your ankle first, then curl the toes in. Keep the toes curled and turn the ankle, and then release the toes. A couple things that will help you in this exercise, because it's intense in a lot of different ways. One, you're stretching your hamstring a little, so you can lower off that. It doesn't have to be an aggressive hamstring stretch.
Okay.
You can center up your pelvis so nothing is really short on one waist or another. And that'll help decrease the burn on your hip flexor. So allow the band to be your hip flexor a little bit in this, and then just really focus out at the foot ankle motion.
Okay.
And go through that double sequence and switch sides. So for this next set of exercises, we want to bring it all together. Take what we just did in terms of mobilizing and creating some flexibility about our foot ankle, also a little bit of gentle strengthening with the band exercise, and now ultimately put it on an uneven surface, which is really where we gain the most training of our balance and proprioception.
Okay.
So we'll take this down to the floor. If you don't have a foam roll, you can use a rolled up towel, and go ahead and place one foot on the roller. And the first task is just to stand adjacent with the other foot and try to really quiet the wobbles that you might experience on your uneven surface. And by quieting that, you are training your brain to control your foot ankle to avoid sprains that might happen because it rolls and you don't have the reaction capability or that quickness that you need to not allow that to happen. After you've mastered the eyes open balance, you can close your eyes and see what happens to your body when
you fall off of the
when
block.
you fall off. When you take the floor away and you give yourself an uneven surface challenge, a wobbly challenge, and then you take your eyes away, all you have is your proprioceptive system. And it's a lot of your inner ear and your vestibular system that's now telling you where you are in space. Okay. So that's what you want to train. No vision, no floor. Where are you? And can you balance there for, 5 seconds, 30 seconds, 1 minute? And so when you're ready. Yeah, it's hard. So then the other thing would be to have eyes open, back on the roller.
Okay.
And find your footing. And then just take some little squats as if you're descending terrain and see if you can keep the roll pretty quiet and your ankle stable.
Okay. And
your knee and hip alignment intact while you go through some of these little squats on an uneven surface. And that'll be really nice because that trains form when the ground is uneven or unpredictable. And we don't want to get a lot of sloppy movement happening, 1 with fatigue and 2 with terrain. Once you've had an ankle injury, it kind of disrupts your body's proprioception, and so you have to return to these kind of contrived exercises to challenge that, reboot the system, and reinstate kind of just better feedback from your brain to your foot and to the terrain that's variable. When you shut your eyes, you take your vision away. We're really dominant in our vision. You've already taken the floor away, and so all you're really relying on is your proprioceptive system. So it's a great exercise if you've had previous injury.
Yeah, awesome. I really like the fact that there's creates variety too, and it stimulates me in new ways because mountain terrain is variable. There's a lot of changes in terrain, and so keeping the brain like sort of thinking quick and literally thinking on your feet is a really helpful aspect. And so I think that's one of the big pieces of incorporating gym exercises and then taking into the mountain context is having that variety and keep stimulating the brain.
Yeah, it's great. And it goes right back to this bigger concept of saving our knees. So the more control we have at our foot ankle, the better our knee alignment and mechanics will be. And overall, all of this put together helps us run better, more free, and hopefully less injuries that stop us in the season.
And more fun on the trails.
Yeah.